To our dear Wellness Couch listeners, we are sending you all our love during these unprecedented times.
Now is the time to appreciate what community really is all about. And on the back of our wellness base camps in Geelong and Camden being postponed, we've decided to run a virtual experience that anyone can attend. It's called Crisis to Confidence.
Right now, the world faces 5 major challenges. The first one, fear and anxiety. So Kim Morrison will present Uncertainty and Love.
The second one is social isolation. So Marcus Pearce is going to talk about how to build community during these difficult times.
The third is mental and emotional despair. So Brett Hill will talk about how to develop resilience.
The fourth is financial uncertainty. So Jason Witten will talk about creating financial security.
And the fifth is a challenged immunity. So Cindy O'Meara will share how to boost our immunity during these times.
Crisis to Confidence will be broadcast live on Saturday, April 4. And if you can't make it, you'll receive lifetime access.
To register and for all the details, go to thewellnessbasecamp.com. That's thewellnessbasecamp.com.
Thank you, Wellness Couch Tribe. We love you and send our virtual hugs and kisses.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We ask, in what ways can we show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can we mine the wisdom from the experiences of our lives and expand into those challenges? If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs, so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. And if you feel like giving a little back to this free content, please become a patron of the show and receive extra member benefits for less than a coffee a month. Or you can leave a review on iTunes and Facebook, all of which helps the podcast keep going and reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul. Head on over to patreon.com/NTM podcast to find out more. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner, and today's podcast is what if the parts you find hard in your child are the parts you reject in you? Like just saturate in that just for 5 seconds. Because the more I think about that sentence, the deeper I can feel that resonance in my body. It's a pretty profound statement, actually. It was Bridgie who came up with that. So that's where we're going today. And before we get there, I would love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our tribe with your email. Once every so often, we'll just shoot you off an email with links to everything we've got going on, so you can pick and choose where you'd love to dive deeper and you will not miss out on anything. So if you would love a bit of that, let me just deal with my microphones. Give me 5 seconds to work out the static. Hang in there. There we go. Then jump on. Now, this podcast is also, we've sort of come full circle and back round to talking more about the underpinnings of the spiritual component of parenting that we often philosophize about.
Yeah.
Is because we are running Soulful in Soul-Driven Motherhood this month, and it is a course, a 4-module course all about the spiritual and conscious aspect of parenting that we talk about, how you can immerse yourself more deeply, contemplate and evoke, invite a deeper meaning to the parenting path that you find yourself on. So if you'd love to join us, then jump into Soul Driven Motherhood and you will find links for Soul Driven Motherhood on our website and socials.
This feels like such a big concept, it's built upon this idea of the mirror, right? So that every single person that we look at in our world is a mirror to some part of ourselves. And that can be intolerable, right, for some people to even contemplate. So it echoes the work of Carl Jung, so one of the fathers of psychology. And if you think about it in terms of the universe being one, so that there is nothing but love and we all come from oneness, this is the idea then that the one, if you imagine that fractured into 8 billion mirror pieces, that you've got these 8 billion pieces of mirror scattered throughout this world that are in some way reflections of each other and all, if we put them all together, representative of the one. Therefore, being that there is nothing that is not you that we see around you. The next level of that is that your children are pieces of you that you have not fully loved yet, because the way that our divinely orchestrated biology happens is that the moment of conception, whatever we and our partner are most repressed or most repressing, that is what is most in our shadow, the shadow being the parts of ourselves that we're not aware of yet. So not necessarily what we want to label dark, but simply just parts of us that are outside of our awareness. We will give birth to in order to learn to love and appreciate, because the nature of having children is love, right? It's love incarnate, and you're always going to love your children. Therefore, they are going to teach you what it means to love. So
that was I just want to applaud you. That was such a beautiful explanation.
Oh, thank you. It feels like a big responsibility to.
If we were in an auditorium, I'd be standing up.
But I say it because I feel like it needs respect and gentleness as well, because our children will evoke in us parts of ourselves that we recoil at, I think. I think that we will, and motherhood takes you to edges of yourself that you didn't quite know were there.
Yeah. Or you thought you dealt with that shit years ago.
Yeah. And here it is.
And here it is.
In your 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Or your 14-year-old.
Oh, whatever. Every age and stage, actually, I think. Yeah.
Because we get to see pieces of us.
Yeah. And they come through our body. They're made of us, by us, and for us.
It's like they've through the birth canal kind of had a little imprint of every part of us.
Yeah.
Not only are they their cells are made of us, but it's like every little piece of us touched them as they came forth into the world.
Yeah.
As a blessing and a curse.
It's both. Although one would argue that it's all a blessing, but
it doesn't always feel like that, right?
It doesn't feel like a blessing, but I think that's because we've acculturated what a blessing is, as opposed to its spiritual teaching, I think.
And so we're always going to have, and Julie and I often talk about this, the parts of our kids that are giving us the shits, or the behaviours that we want to stamp out.
Yeah.
And often because they're really uncomfortable. And we're not raising that. I'm not raising that.
Yeah.
Because that is representative of what I don't like. Because that in some way is some part of me that I haven't appreciated how it serves me and how it serves the world and who I love.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we will disown it in ourselves by disowning it in our children, not wanting to be around it.
Yeah, shutting it down.
Yeah. Which looks like not wanting to be around our kids when they're displaying certain behaviours.
Yeah.
It looks like it being easier to numb out. And I totally can see how this happens, particularly as children get older and you allow that feeling in you to go unchecked. So you allow the chasm between yourself and your child and those behaviors that you find cringeworthy, you allow that to grow without curiosity and presence to it, so that then it becomes easier for that child to get lost in a screen a bit longer than you really want them to, and you go over here and do your thing, and you miss the relating piece that brings them back in and you back in relationship with that piece of you that they represent. That's my theory.
No, I 100% support that theory.
And so for me, like, I really dance with my daughter particularly. Oh, and I think every child, right? Every child has like characteristics that you just fucking hate.
All of the time. I do think in a family it's often a dance. Like I do think there's a level of orchestration that's respectful. That's like, oh, it's my turn now.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh, fuck, that was a big journey. Thank God we're on the other side of that. And then someone else goes, now it's my turn.
Almost like these, like the keys of a piano, kind of like, oh, no, not even that, like a whack-a-mole maybe.
Yeah, like a whack-a-mole. Yeah, it is. Exactly like that. So, and I always laugh at it because I'm always like,
oh,
yeah, it just is cyclical. Like there's always shit going down.
Yeah.
But it will change who it's going down for.
Yeah. It's like they sense when the opening is for the thing.
Yeah. And I think it's sad to think that we might miss those moments. Like I do think that's the purpose of building connection and energetic awareness of, or sensitization of the other, whoever the other is in the room with you, is to recognize when the moment arises, because you miss the moment otherwise, and the moments become years.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bit heartbreaking, isn't it?
Well, because it's the ordinary. Like there's at no point in all of my parenting have there been cataclysmic moments where we've like been on holiday and I don't know, like I don't even know what the fantasy is, but the thing where we've like had a big date day and we've love bombed, and then that was the time something revelationary happened and we had this profound conversation. No. It's in the everyday, in the unordinary, in the extraordinary moments, in the ordinary moments is when you find those pockets and where you actually do the work of building connection, emotional check-in, relationship, intimacy. It's in the everyday small stuff. It's not in the annual holiday or whatever.
Yeah, that you bring your whole host of fantasies to and think it's going to be picture perfect and it's a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even just, you know, oh, well, I took my child out for my one day of love bombing and they were beautiful, but then we got home and it was all the same. Yeah, that, you know, it's all really beautiful to do that, you know, deeply, I see you connecting, let's do this thing together. Beautiful. But don't do it expecting that there'll be change in the spiritual practice you currently find yourself in. Because that would be spiritual bypassing.
Yeah. Or have these fantasies of like, I'm going to choose this day, I'm going to love bomb and they're going to love it and I'm going to love it. And then actually all they want to do is let out all their big feelings with me. And then that day was a failure. You know, that too, I see. When in fact, what if that was exactly what your relationship needed and what they needed from you was for you to meet that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I do. No, I do. I totally think that. So whenever something comes up in my child, I know you're the same. I always bring curiosity first. What's this? Why is this here? What piece of me is this? Yes, there's still teachings and things that your children will grow through and that you will need to be present for the teachings of. But it's always wise for this gig of parenting to be two-way. There's an inhale and there's an exhale, right? It's not just I'll do it to you and you'll be fixed and I'll feel better.
Yeah.
Tell me how that works for you in relationship.
Yeah. Oh, God. Could you imagine if you did that with your partner?
Right. Or your partner who's always trying to do it to you. I'll just fix what's going on right now that's disrupting me.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to life and life will be sweet.
But yet, you know, this is the mainstream conversation about parenting, isn't it, really? It's about I'll do a set of things to
fix you.
Yeah. To fix this behaviour.
Yeah, yeah. As opposed to it being symptomatic of an expression of whatever that family needs or whatever I need or even more consciously as a spiritual realm that it's calling me into my next growth and learning. And that piece of me that's being reflected right there is for me to love and grow through. That doesn't mean love, you know, it has to stay and exist as it is. But not to judge it and cast it out. It's to see it, love with the deepest sense of compassion, why it exists as a creative adaptation for your child and you in any form. That's loving it. That doesn't mean I love it until it no longer affects me and it has to stay in its current form. No, it's not. You have to love something before you can have any level of mastery for it to change form. But to love it is really just to be completely self-accepting and deeply compassionate for why it exists in the first place. Because all of it's just a creative adaptation, which is love.
And if you think about all behaviour is functional, right?
All behaviour is functional. All behaviour is regulatory. All behaviour is trying to get your body into a state that it can handle.
And trying to get a need met too. I mean, I'm watching a lot what's happening at the moment between my two daughters, and my baby has just started crawling, and my 3-year-old, I can see, is struggling with that infringing on her world. And so that looks like hitting that I can't always stop or can't always catch. And so then I'm getting really curious about what's happened that's led to that, what relationship connection I'm feeling with both of those girls, how my middle daughter might be perceiving any kind of infatuation I have with the baby and therefore her trying to take the baby down because that's what's also happening, right? In sibling dynamics, it's not so much you've got to be gentle because you're the bigger one and you're being too rough. It's this baby sensing on a soul level that this 3-year-old sensing on a soul level that this baby needs to be taken down a peg. Right. And that siblings will do that to break infatuations and, do whatever they need to do that's unseen under our eyes. So I'm not beating myself up that I've always missed that or that my baby's tears are my fault because I wasn't quick enough, because I'm not always going to be. But I can be with what's there and go, so we need to build some skills here to help this relationship between these two girls grow. And I need to look here at what's for me. What's my trigger here? So why am I finding this so hard? Why am I finding her aggression flicking off like that so hard? How do I feel about my own aggression? Does it have a space to release? Is she doing it for me? Am I giving it reverence for how it serves me in my life, my aggression, my, quick to temper? All those things that bring up visceral desires in me to stop. What is that telling me about me that I'm not loving right now? How can I see how she's using that to get my attention or to pull me in if I'm not taking the preventative actions with her to fill her cup? How is what she's doing here right now the perfect way to pull me in? I'm asking myself all of those questions before I berate myself, try to stop her, and feel like my whole day's gone to shit, right?
So good. I loved those questions.
Because this is what makes motherhood and parenting a profoundly enriching experience that gives us a skill set across every area of life. Because it's not just, it was so boring today at home with the kids. It was, I learned this about myself, and I learned this conflict resolution skill, and I helped these two get their needs met, and all of the things. But they're just not valued in our culture, that's the work of valuing it for yourself.
100%. Parenting will teach you everything you need to know about yourself. and about every area of your life that you want to empower. It all exists in the universe that is your family.
Yeah. It's like the hidden jewel, right, of what the family teaches.
Yeah, in every way that we choose.
If you've got a problem with conflict, fuck, your family will teach you how to deal with conflict.
100%. Yeah.
And help you learn the value of conflict.
And your skill set.
It'll help you polish that diamond.
Yeah. Yes, it will, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I just love that as a concept, that every part of me that wants to invest in my parenting now feels so totally justified in doing that, because I can track back and see all of the ways that the investment in my parenting has empowered and served every other area of my life that is exceptionally important and powerful to me. Like, my success is totally, totally hinged on my parenting.
And it's a totally beautiful way to reframe all of the investment that you make in parenting too, when, you know, when it can be really easy to feel like it's not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because no one will support that. I spent every time I've struggled, I have, like you, and look, also back when I was, I know I keep doing this, but back when I was parenting, my eldest two, like this whole Facebook, social media, podcast, access to all of the greatest. It wasn't even around.
Yeah.
So all I had was whoever was coming to Australia, I went to their workshop. Because that's what people did back then.
Yeah, that was the only way to access
the only way to access
that and the printed word. Would you believe it?
Right. And books.
And books, and, you know, maybe like internet websites, like websites. And
yeah,
stuff,
so blogs. Yeah, blogs were big back then.
Yeah.
But largely it was workshops and books. Yeah, so I've always been a massive reader, as you know. My mum offered me I gave her a book for Mother's Day earlier in the year, and it was just like the latest, best, you know, fiction book. And she's like, oh, do you want to read it after me? And I'm like, I don't have time to read a fiction book.
Have you seen my bedside? Because my mum can't understand that I read nonfiction all of the time. I'm like, Mum, I don't have time for fiction books. Like, you should see my bedside table.
Reading list. And have you seen the reading list that's in my phone?
Yeah. Have you seen my Audible? Like, I can't even.
I can't die before I've read everything that's here. So I better get to it.
Yeah.
So that, you know, like, I always have done that, but with varying levels of cultural guilt, I think, about how valid or entitled I was. If my children were having a really big, like, particularly with my son, I always struggled at each stage with him. One, because it was my first rodeo at each stage. Two, because he was a boy and I had all of the learnings to learn about the growing masculine and how to love it. So it was always really hard and an area I didn't understand at all, and often violent. So, you know, often really physical. And so I always was like, the behaviour almost had to be so bad that I was like, we have to find the solution here, which totally justified any extent of resource that I needed to find.
To make that happen.
Yeah, which is also genius.
Yeah. Like, because you're moving heaven and earth at that point to pull down that information.
If he was just easy, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Like, behaviour is always functional and always in alignment with your growth.
And also you're perceiving it in a way that means that you're going to take action on it, or you're not.
Yeah.
Because of what's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. But every single skill of, like, now I keep hearing everybody now in podcasts talking about nonviolent communication. Man, I did that course when my son was 1. That's how long it's been around for.
Yeah.
But nonviolent communication as a skill set exists in every area of my life. Relationship, work, community, friendship, business, kids. Like,
it's just a language now.
I learnt it for parenting, but I've applied it to everything. Same as building emotional bandwidth, or being with an emotion, or learning how to regulate myself through a trigger. I've applied it to every area of my life, but that empowerment only arose because I invested in the parenting where it was hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and where it was most important, because you're most driven to invest in it.
Yeah, because of my voids. So it's like so freaking perfect. I think we've got off path.
I think it's okay. What's that topic again?
What if the parts you find hard in your child are the parts you reject in you? I loved your story from before. I think it's good to like bring that down from being etheric into being tangible.
Really clear. Really clear.
Yeah. Do you have any other? Can you pick traits in each of your children that you're working through right now?
Yeah. My son would be aggression, which is
I've totally tried
very like 7-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah, it is.
I find that pretty hard.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that a lot. And where I release aggression and where I feel comfortable to release aggression and where I don't feel comfortable to release aggression and similarly where I put boundaries on him and his aggression. So you can have it here and not here. And how that's also where I'm noticing where I'm more willing to put it and where I'm not willing to put it, right? Where it can flick off without abandon and where I've learned to curtail it in my life. Like I don't reveal a lot of aggression with my husband. Like I'm not a yeller.
No.
I don't enter into conflict with abandon. I just don't. But get me behind a wheel.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
I have all of the swear words when I'm driving a car. It's incredibly cathartic. You know, I actually said to my husband, I said, you know, I do wonder what's going to happen if they do driverless cars because I really see...
Oh, that is a fascinating conversation.
Well, because, you know, if you think about all traits being conserved and that all behaviour is functional, I actually do wonder how much road rage helps avoid domestic violence. How much road rage is purposeful for releasing pent-up frustration and energy that hasn't got safety to go anywhere else.
I was listening to a male teacher actually the other day talk about essentially what you're talking about, like sacred anger release.
Yeah.
And the example he gave was, you know, when someone like cuts you off and you like grind down your window, you're like, fuck yeah. You're like, it's that,
yeah,
right? Like if he doesn't have that anymore, where does it go?
Where does it go? Because it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
It's got to go somewhere. We can't like our way out of our need to express our very human emotions. And so, yeah, like seeing my son's aggression and helping him move it in ways that are responsible, you know, so bringing in that self-responsibility angle. But first that comes back a step to awareness, first of all, of you're even expressing, right? Because so many of us move around in the world not even realizing the like, you know, tornadoes of stuff that we might leave. And so it's bringing awareness to what's happening here and how we can move that in constructive ways, which then asks me to go, oh, where am I like flicking that off? Where am I like not taking ownership for like my viciousness or my like angry tone? Because I'm talking to him a lot about tone and how he speaks to me and how he speaks to his sisters and how if he changed his tone to be more like this, I might be more willing to give him what he's asking.
Oh my God, this is like a mirror. I like can remember every single one of these conversations.
Because it fucking gets me on edge. Like I don't want to be spoken to like that.
I just always looked at it like, no, I don't. But this is immense learning for you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if I don't teach you this, it's going to come in a less loving way from somebody else. So what is the more loving thing to do in this moment? It's to give you this. You know? So yeah, for him at the moment, it's aggression, and for me, it's also, and the other edge is him pulling away. Like so, seeing now, he's really forming really beautiful social relationships, and I can see like what that looks like in terms of an infatuation and the heartbreak, and then infatuation and a heartbreak, and that pulling away from me in favor of social relationships, and so the parenting of myself in that. So supporting those to flourish at the same time as noticing that little bit of hurt there. With my daughter, I talked about it's the you know, Pearl, like, yelling at her and, just noticing, like, the head donk and things like that. And with Pearl, strangely enough, it's her grunting when she wants something that I can't give her right now because of being a third baby and stuff going on. I can't always meet, like, what she wants straight away. And so it's like...
What does she do? She grunts.
She's like, like when she's hungry or whether she wants to be picked up. Like it's like not even a thing, but I just notice that I get irritated with it. And so it's like, oh, okay. And that's part of me for a story of like, I'm not across everything. I haven't got all my, like, I'm feeling out of control here. It's all feeling a bit much. It's stretching into, like, the ability to meet everything that's being asked of me and parent myself in a way that is not, like, trying to make everybody else responsible for what I can't handle right now, which is the, classic overwhelmed mother that wants to make it everybody else's problem.
/ the blueprint that everyone has for a relationship.
Yeah. Like, just flick it out, and which comes from, obviously, our parents when they felt stretched and were likely not conscious of their energy and managing that and things like that. So, yeah, that's me. What about you?
I don't know. I was trying to sit myself back there. Funnily enough, I think with my son, I'm always like, just show them your light. Like when we're in new, so for instance, we had a new experience tonight together, him and I, and he was in the presence of some really beautiful men, and I could see him just move into his insecurity. So his shoulders hunch over, his front collapses and caves in. He has flashes of, red as he, feels embarrassed or nervous, or, maybe I think I'm being funny and he thinks I'm being an idiot.
He's totally embarrassed by his uncool mother.
Yeah, like any of those movements, right? And I found myself sitting in this consultation watching him with these men and taking the role of the observer and just wanting to turn around to him and just have a minute to just go, can we just work on your body structure right now? Can you please just not collapse, and instead let's just move up and out, show them the light, because you are magnificent if you just let them see it. Because right now they can't see it and they don't know who you are because you're hiding it because you think it's not there, and I know it is. So how reflective of self is that?
Oh, God, it's just gold.
Right?
Yeah, it's so good. So how is that not just you talking to you, right?
100%.
And that is, and this in fact is what I often talk about when we're coaching women is, like, listen closely to the advice you're giving your children because it's for you. It's your subconscious talking to you.
Totally. Totally. With my daughter Jade, it's her uncouthness.
Oh, that's hilarious because you have such a problem with that.
Don't I?
You really do.
I do. And I've
tell us what that looks like.
I've like for years super celebrated her like avant-garde kind of nature. I've put in place all of the structures, people, extracurriculars for her to really step into that. And yet it hits edges for me where I'm like, please stop being so goofy and just be cool. Or please don't wear that. Please pick a different outfit.
Yes, the please don't wear that. I know I already have a problem with that, like with my daughter. Like I'm already like, you can't wear those together.
Or I'll be like, that's actually that top is like disgustingly dirty. Please, can you pick a clean top, not the one that's on that you've thrown on the floor because it's the only thing you can be bothered wearing because it's what you've had out for the last 4 days.
Oh, God.
Please pick another top. And she looks down and she's like, I'm good.
Oh.
And I'm like,
I'm not.
Whose problem is this?
Yeah.
Because actually, who I raised is who gives a shit? I'm amazing.
But that's the thing, right? And that's a fine line, right? At what point do you like do that? And at what point do you equip them for how to bring their best self out into the world?
Right.
Like, what's that line?
Right.
Depends
I
on
do
who you
think it's a
ask.
dance. I do think it's a dance. I do think that it's a little bit of both. And I have to, if I really ask myself in those moments, particularly if the dirty stained top or whatever that has food down it or something, it's because I perceive that to be a reflection on my poor housekeeping or looking after of my children or family, that, you know, somehow that puts me in a low socioeconomic kind of, you know, you've decided who I am based on my child's top.
Cleanliness, which is like so my story too.
So I think it's actually, if I'm really honest about it, it's not got anything to do with her because I've brought her awareness to it in as loving a way as I can in that moment, because I'm not triggered by it. I'm just like, do you think, you know? And she has the opportunity at the moment. She'll go, yeah, I'm going to change it. Or she'll be like, no, I'm good. And so then I think, okay. So if it's not me who's aligning you, then the world will or you will. And any one of those things is fine as long as you have choice.
And this is also another practice of non-attachment, right? Like not attaching to how and noticing where you are attached to how people perceive you, and being okay to go, oh, that's now her choice to allow herself to be perceived however she's going to be perceived as a result of that.
Exactly. And that's cool. That's totally fine. And it's all my own edges of being super uncool and super daggy and never well dressed because that was who my mum was, and socially awkward and, you know, all of those skill sets that I've worked really hard in my adult life to cultivate, to feel a sense of security with, are now a skill set for me, which I could hand you. Don't you want it?
Yeah. I've worked really hard for this.
And I know it's opposite. You don't want that. Whereas she's like, it's not even a void for her, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
So occasionally she'll come, she go, does this outfit match, or should I, you know, and then when she invites me into that conversation, it's a beautiful space to have it. But when it's me feeling the sense of my own ridicule, it's not her problem. It's mine.
To go over here and reparent.
Yeah. And I've worked really hard for so many years for her to be everything she wants to be. So the fact that I've created the thing that now annoys me is hilarious.
That's so funny.
And I laugh at myself for it.
Yeah.
Because that's the irony, right? Because she is my repressed parts. So my voids and delusions will carry through until at such point that I bust those. And there's a humour to the universe when that happens. So you just sometimes got to laugh along with it. This is ironic, you know. Lola, it's her helplessness.
That's been a big trigger for you for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, like her whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's her helplessness. I'm still not clear yet. I think I'm still in the acute phase of new awareness with her to be clear on that reflection within myself. Well, and I mean, except I was about to say, because I know I'm not helpless, and maybe that's the whole point, right? Is my entire life has been about self-sufficiency.
And if you think about the family as a conservation of all parts, then the more that you are not helpless, the more you have to have the opposite.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
So in that moment, it's dropped in. So yeah, in every way that I am powerful and a world and force unto myself, she is the opposite. So
the more extreme a polarity you have in the family system, the more you have to have its opposing extreme.
Yeah, it's like a seesaw. So funnily enough, you know, is one of the many practices that I have in my intimacy is cultivating my essential sort of devotional helplessness. Not bimbo helplessness, devotional helplessness that he is, you know, evoked into wanting to protect and love the light of that vulnerable heart. So that actually totally makes sense, because right now I'm working on my helplessness, but not in the framework that I think it was taught to me through a family narrative of helpless women, being stupid or, whatever, a different version of what that actually means. So I'm working specifically on my helplessness at the moment. So I have a third child who is.
But also how beautiful that you get to actually work on it in a way that is super, super valuable to you, which is in your intimacy and sexuality.
Yeah.
Right? That's cool.
Yeah, it is. So hopefully now that we've had that conversation, actually it's probably a really good one to have, that I can hopefully just find a little more bandwidth there for her. But that's hard. Gwen. Jesus, she's so free range, mate.
but you know what? But I wonder if because Sylvie's super free range, and I'm thinking, fuck, when she goes to school, man, I'm gonna be screwed. because of just and how much I celebrate the free range. When you try to bring that down, what's gonna happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that wasn't how you felt about her 6 months ago. When you were deep in toddler stage and it felt hard.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But you've moved past that.
Yeah, but as I'd said to you even at the time, this is my hard, but probably 1 to 2 is my hard age. Even 10 months to 22 months is the phase that I've always really struggled.
I've already said to everybody, oh yeah, the hard part started now. Babies up until 10 months, 10 months.
9 months, are most divine creatures.
Yeah.
And then at, 9, 10 months you start regression, and then all of the repressed parts start to remove or come up as they slowly remove themselves from your identification. So it is a really hard, the needs I think in that time is always what gets me. So look, she's still pretty needy, but she's just so fucking rad. I just kind of love.
I'm rad.
Well, even the shit that she does that's I don't even know, I don't know, that I probably would have in a different evolution of myself considered rude. I'm like, oh my God, that's so fucking awesome. Or I don't even know.
Which with your older children you might have tried to parent them out of.
I would have parented them out of it. And now I just laugh.
So why do you think that you've loosened the reins on that now?
Because I just think I have learnt the lessons and it's not so intertwined with my sense of identity anymore. Their display of that behaviour is not as painful to me. It's not painful to me anymore.
Yeah. And it's not you're not.
I've owned and loved that trait and incorporated into my being enough that it doesn't even get a rise. I'm just oh, so cute. I love you. It's amazing.
Isn't that hilarious?
But that's the purpose of loving the trait, right?
Yeah, because and in fact once you've loved it enough, you won't even see it.
Well, it doesn't even really register.
Yeah, because you're not looking for it.
No, and it becomes the stories that we all share and giggle about at dinner time. And, and in those moments where it could otherwise have been disconnection, I can just giggle and it's like a,
it's released.
Heart burst and bang, she's back into connection again because she's not separated. So I would like to be able to get more work done. But the second I get my computer out or my phone.
She's got an antenna for it.
Yeah. And actually now my AirPods. So if you're on Voxer coaching with me, even today where we were driving, I thought driving, she's in her seat. Yeah. I'll put it on. I'll do it because you can tap on your headphones, while I'm on Voxer. And the second I start talking, she starts going, Mama, Mama, Mama. She's in the background. And I'd stop the recording. Gwen, do you have something you want to tell me? And she'd just sit there quietly.
It's hilarious.
And then I'd start talking again. And she'd start again. I was like, oh my God. And then in her play, everything is about work. So today we were playing the playground after school drop and she's like, come with me, I'm going to drive you to work. And I'm like, okay. And she plays work, but she won't let me do work.
Oh, damn it. Just to spite you. She's teasing you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's definitely an edge because I would like to be able to do more pockets of work during the day with her. I don't need to work all day, but pockets of it would be super duper. But she doesn't like to watch TV. And
I wonder still how much of that is also just a hangover of parts of you that are still not quite okay with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty good. I'd be pretty happy with it. Immersing in a movie while I sat next to her with my computer or something. But the second I'm distracted, she is not invested at all. So that probably irritates me the most with her at the moment is just like, dude, you're so like awesome. I've just set you up with play or you're doing like why the second I get my computer out, you know, or whatever. So, I mean, maybe that's still a reflection of how okay am I with parenting and working together. Yeah. I could totally still be a reflection of that. I often wonder that.
Yeah, Sylvie says to me sometimes when I know she's feeling out of connection, she'll say, I hate nourishing the mother.
Oh my God, that's cold.
Isn't it cold? because she associates me going off on podcasting as me leaving her, right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, I hate it.
Yeah. I actually love goodbyes with Gwen. Like because she's had babysitters since, you know, pretty much little. Well, babysitters has always been in our house and I've sort of moved in and out of that. And so she associates babysitters with like
fun.
Yeah. So even now I'll be like trying to have the separation conversation around like, I'm going here and here's what's going to happen. And she like puts her hand in my face. She's like, just go.
Oh, really?
Bye.
Oh, wow.
And she even has this tone. She's like, bye. See you later, hey man, K-man, in a wild crocodile. And I'll be like, okay, in a wild crocodile, see you, you know, and I'll be back. And she's like, just go.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I'm like, okay.
Heartbreak kind of, but actually excited.
Yeah, it's like, it's super amazing. So she totally, I don't even know.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really
mine's
cool.
Often I'm coming here at night time, so I'm not reading her a book.
Yeah.
So it's like, screw you, Nourishing the Mother. My mum's not reading me a book.
Yeah, but doesn't someone else read her a book?
Mum Marcus does, but she likes me to do it.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
It is funny. Anyway, we've gone on.
We have totally. But we really hope that this is insightful for you in terms of you looking at yourself and your story and what parts of your child call you into noticing what parts of yourself that perhaps you want to push down, avoid, or not see.
And how you might work with those a little bit differently.
And of course, come and join us in Suburban Motherhood for Soulful Parenting, which is where we're going to do a whole lot more of deepening into these kinds of conversations and reflections. So hop there, nourishingthemother.com.au.
And connect with you, Bridge.
SuburbanSandcastles.com. And you, Jules?
ThePleasureNutritionist.com.au.
Remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey. And if you want to support Nourishing the Mother and all the late nights, the early mornings, the blood, sweat and tears we pour into our art, then please go to patreon.com/NTM podcast and become our patron. As a patron, you're helping all of the cost of operating this podcast, the hosting, the editing, the transcription, helping all of that be completely covered, and joining a community who are all about honouring our journeys and continuing to open. The more support we have, the longer we can last. So become a patron. We'd love to have you. Go to patreon.com/NTM podcast. We literally couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for listening, and please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavour to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.